Let's switch gears a little bit now and talk about how to make patterns that are a little bit more precise, maybe not the kind of tossed like puzzle putting together type of patterns that we've been working on so far. You might want to make a more precise geometric pattern, for example, and grids can be a really useful way to make that happen. So let's start a new document here, 8x8 as usual. So the most basic type of grid that you could create is just like a checkerboard grid. So we'll turn on our rulers here, which is up in the view menu if you're looking for that right here. Command R is the keyboard shortcut. So if you don't know how to make a guide, the way to do that is to click, hold, and drag from either this left ruler over here, and you can drag it right into the middle or wherever you want to place it, and then just let go. Same thing, you can drag down from the top and place it where you want and let go. So this is the most basic grid really that you can make. So if you can picture it, let's actually we'll make a couple of squares here. So 4 by 4 is the size that each square will be, and we'll fill it with a color here. And we can copy that over 4 and down 4. Okay, and then we can, let's do copy, Command C, Command F to paste in front. If we rotate these 90 degrees and then fill them with a different color. Okay, so that is not beautiful at all, but it'll give you the idea. So if we turned that into a repeating pattern, then it would repeat as this checkerboard grid design. So that's the most basic type of grid that you can use. You could fill each of these 4 quadrants with a different shape. So let's delete those, and let's just go ahead and open this up. And we'll copy these over. Okay. And I'm going to lock these actually so I don't move them. And if you go down to guides and lock, then when you can't select them and move them by accident. So I could put, you know, one of these shapes in each quadrant and turn that into a repeating pattern, and that would repeat, you know, in that kind of grid formation. Just fill those up. Okay, and how about another leaf? So then the trick with this is if there's nothing overlapping the edges, you know, we've been working on making the magic square. There we go. If nothing is overlapping the edges, you can actually just turn this into the repeat, just like this, and it'll repeat properly the way you want. So let's test that out, and I'll just show you how that works. So that's a simple and basic way to make a very precise grid, so you know that everything is repeating exactly where you want it to, lined up in its proper quadrant. Alternatively, you could make your quadrants smaller, so effectively they won't be quadrants anymore. Let's unlock the guides and move these over. So you can make more guides. For example, turning this into, instead of just 4, we could turn this into 16. Drag down from the top. So each of these squares now will be 2 by 2 inches instead of 4 by 4. So I'll lock those again right here. Let's shrink this down with the scale tool by 50%. And you can see now my pattern tile is the same size, but I've shrunken my motifs down to be smaller. I can move them over to the right for up and down 0, copy. If you wanted to really get fancy, you could start to rotate so everything looks a little bit different. You could now copy all of these down. So left and right 0, down 4, copy. Maybe you want to rotate those so they're upside down, so 180 degrees. Okay, and again, I don't really have anything overlapping the edges necessarily, so I can just grab all these, drag them over to my swatches palette. You can see my swatch showed up right there, and let's just scoot on over and test it out. So here's the first one we made, and here is the next smaller version. So that can be kind of just a fun, quick, and easy way to create a more precise pattern where you're not kind of eyeballing where things should go. And let's just go ahead and move all of that over to the side again. And we'll delete these guides. So we'll unlock, delete. Okay, so what if you want to make a grid that's not just a like checkerboard square kind of grid? There's a way that you can do that too. So we'll drag over our regular guides that we started with, just one over into the center and then one down into the center. What you can actually do is select these, and you can rotate these grids just the same way, or these guides rather, just the same way that you would rotate a shape or a motif. So if you go to the rotate tool and double click, if you rotate 45 degrees, click OK. Now you can see we're getting somewhere interesting. So now we're working on a diamond repeat. So this would make, you know, this is one half of the diamond and the other half bottom of the diamond, the top half. So you could stick a motif here overlapping halfway and then repeat it over to the right, same for the top and the bottom, and that would create a like diamond repeating shape. So you can also make this a little bit more complex by copying, and then same way that you can repeat and move, or copy and move over a motif to a specific place on your artboard, you can do the same thing with the guide. So I've got them selected, and I'll double click my black arrow tool. Let's move them over to the right 4, up and down 0, and click copy. So you can see now I'm making an even smaller diamond grid. We can do the same thing here. So we'll double click again. Let's move these over to the left this time. So that's a negative number, and we'll copy. And you can see now I've got a cool diamond grid that I can lock these and start placing motifs in here instead to create a different kind of repeating shape. So I'll just kind of quickly fill some of these in. This can be really great, and again, you could fill this with really whatever kind of shapes you want. They can overlap the edges or not. You could make them, you know, actual diamonds, so it's more of a geometric repeat. I'm obviously putting in just kind of whatever shapes at this point, just so you can see that there are a variety of ways that you can make this work. And then the only thing you'll want to remember with this one is that you definitely will have shapes overlapping the left and the right. So whatever is overlapping, the edges will need to be repeated over to the other side. So let's put another one here. And then we'll move those over from the left to the right, or copy them over, I mean. So let's select both of those, and we'll move them over to the right 8, vertical 0, and copy. And then we'll shrink that down a little to make it fit a little better. And we'll just quickly put in a couple more shapes here. So it'll be the same thing. These are starting to overlap on the top now. So we'll move those or copy those down. Okay, so we'll go horizontally 0, vertically 8, and copy. Okay, and maybe we'll make that one a little bit bigger. Okay, so this one, since we do have motifs overlapping the edges, we will most definitely want to make that magic square. So we'll click there with our rectangle tool, make our square 8 by 8 because that's the size of the artboard. Send to back. Select everything and click, hold, and drag it over. And then let's test that out. Make a big square. And there is our diamond repeat. So you can see all I was doing was placing shapes within a precisely placed diamond. So everything is right where it needs to be. So I'm going to delete this and show you how you could make this, you know, a geometric design instead. So I'm not totally sure how big those, how big those squares actually are, or those diamonds. The diamonds are basically just squares that are rotated 45 degrees. So let's try that, and we'll just fill that with a color instead and rotate that 45 degrees to see how close we are. Okay, so it's not quite big enough, so I'm just going to hold down my shift key and drag that. So it looks like 2.83 is the size of my square. Okay, so now I've got that filled in, and I can just leave it that way to create like a diagonal diamond checkerboard type design. I can also, let's do Command C, Command F to make a copy right in the front and shrink that down maybe 70%. Command C, Command F, let's do that again. Make that a different color. Command C, Command F to make a copy right in front. We'll shrink it down and change that color. And so now I can select this, and all I really have to do is copy and paste this over and down and around into the different diamond shapes. So let's double click that, and we'll be moving, let's move to horizontally to the left. So that's a negative number, so -4 because we're kind of halfway in the center, and 0 vertically, and copy. And this one is overlapping the left edge, so let's go ahead and move that all the way over to the right edge. So that's 8, and vertically 0, and copy. And then we can leave them as is. You can change the colors, whatever you like. And the next thing we'll need to do is just copy these down 4. So let's select all of those, and we'll be going horizontally 0 and vertically 4, and copy. So next what we'll have to do is just fill in those white areas, the white diamond shapes, and we'll change the colors once we do move these. So for now, we'll select everything. And now if you can picture it, the math it can be a little bit tricky to kind of visualize the numbers that are appropriate for how you'll be moving things, and it may take just a little bit of trial and error. But basically we're moving half the amount that we were before. So let's move up vertically and to the right. So we'll double click. To the right is 2, so half of 4 is 2. Vertically is always a negative number, so we'll do that, and we'll copy. And let's leave those selected, and you could leave it like that if you like how it looks, or we could go to the recolor artwork tool and just kind of move these around so they're in different positions. Maybe like that. Click OK. And then we just have 2 more spots to fill in. It looks like these need to go down to the bottom. So horizontally 0, all the way down is a +8, and copy. And there is our diamond repeat. And so you can get fancy by changing the shape of the edges of your diamond by making those more of like an OG shape, an onion, kind of that onion repeat that you may be familiar with, or making it like a wavy diamond, or just overlapping in different ways. You could put an outline, maybe like dots on the vertical or on the diagonal, lines of the diamonds, whatever you want. You can get as fancy or not fancy as you want using this grid. And then to turn that into a repeating pattern, of course, you'll want to make that blank magic square. So right now it's in the front. Let's move it all the way to the back. And we'll select everything, move it over, and let's test it out. There we go. It repeats perfectly. And then you can always unlock those guides, and either you can leave them, they won't ever print, so you can just leave those. You can hide them right here. You can delete them, whatever you want. You don't really need them once your repeat is finished, so it's really up to you. So hopefully that is useful and fun to play around with. It can be a really nice way to just create some more precise geometric repeats rather than just putting everything together in a lovely little jumble like we have been doing so far. So can't wait to see what you make with this technique.